Okay, so this is interview by Hannah Brunson, interviewing Marilyn Stewart. All right, Marilyn. So, first question: what schools did you attend when you decided to pursue higher education?
Well, right out of high school, I went to a local college called Chipola College. And after that, because there was a break in graduation, I actually stopped out. I joined the military. I did some various courses from different colleges in different places.
Were those like online courses or like?
Some.
Okay. Gotcha.
Uh, yeah.
Okay. So, kind of to further, go into the term first generation student, were you the first in your family to actually attend college or just to graduate?
No, I was not first to attend college. Like you, Hannah, there were 8 of us,
Oh, wow.
and I was number 5. And I had an older brother and an older sister to attend. They did not graduate right away. Later in life, my older sister went back and she finished and became the first in our family to have a college degree.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, so when you I know when I first began college, there was a lot of misconceptions and prejudgments, like from people, telling me like, oh, college, like this is what it's like, and like, kind of trying to scare me almost, And did you have any like prejudgments or misconceptions that you just found were ridiculous or like anything like that?
Well, I think one of the first things I thought about college and students attending was everyone was wealthy.
Oh, okay.
And that was part of the reason, I didn't think that I could go to college. So I didn't really make the decision until my senior year, at the end of my junior year, starting my senior year. And at that time, I just thought I'd go to college. The misconception was you could leave high school and just go when you decided to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely a misconception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, when you got to college and everything, what was like your living situation? Because I know there's like a mixture of like kids commuting, like myself, or kids who live on campus. And how did your college living situation affect your social and academic life at school?
Okay. Well, I was a commuter. Because I went to school, like I said, at the local college, and it was for town people. It was just assumed that you would commute, that you'd live at home, and that you'd commute in. There were dormitories there. But they were mainly for people from outside of the area that attended school. And usually it would be a far distance, maybe another state, even another country,
Okay.
that sort of thing. We had sports teams as well, so we had athletic dorms, that sort of thing. So I was familiar with on-campus living,
Okay.
but I was a commuter.
Okay. Did you feel that because you commuted that possibly like affected, your ability to socialize or like, get like be able to utilize the student resources or anything like that? Like, do you feel like that your commuting affected that at all?
Well, first I'll really start out with, I wasn't aware of the resources for students. That was the first part. But being a commuter, along with many others who also commuted, it was just expected that we had other responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so having...
Come in.
I think the door's locked.
Oh, sorry. No, you're good.
Thanks, Court.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave you to it.
Okay.
So you know whether we're talking about now. and-
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for looking at that.
Thanks, Court.
Okay. But it was kind of expected, or you weren't really aware of the resources and.
No, I wasn't aware really of the different resources that would be available to a first-gen student or a freshman student, a first-time student. My assumption was you start school and you just continue with however you did it in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so outside responsibilities, whether it was jobs or kids or other family obligations, then most of the commuters that I knew had those outside responsibilities.
Okay. All right. Okay, so being in a big family and everything like that, and you're like, just your brother and sister going to college, did your family support your decision, or like were they kind of how'd they feel about that?
Well, they didn't disapprove, but the thought was I would graduate high school and get a job and contribute to the family.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that it couldn't be done, it was just that so far it hadn't been done.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I was actually admitted and going and seemingly doing well,
Mhm.
that then my family was very happy and proud that I was in college.
Okay. Hmm. Okay, just finish up my notes. Okay.
Oh, no problem.
So, next question. What were some of the more difficult aspects of college life to adapt to that you had never experienced before through high school and public education?
I'm gonna start with from an academic standpoint. I would say something that was difficult and that I had to adapt to was the study time. The difference between high school and college, time-wise, and just learning to balance that time. Again, having outside responsibilities, and thinking that I still could do my outside of college responsibilities and uphold the amount of time needed to not just go to school, go to class, do work in class, but the outside of class time, I was not prepared for what I needed to do because I didn't know that I was going to need to do that
Oh, yeah.
as a first gen. And then I was kind of learning it on the job training way.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, oh, yes, I should have written that 5-page paper, you know, after the first class. And now
Yeah.
2 days later, it is actually due.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Just trying to figure out how to, balance all that and everything. It's,
Yeah.
it's pretty.
You mean I don't have time? And the other thing is, when I look at my experience, which was years ago, versus what we are doing now in college, which is every professor is now supposed to have a syllabus. Not, that wasn't always the case in those days. This is something that has come out of, I'm going to assume, trial and error. But in those days, all professors did not have to have a syllabus. And so a lot of assuming went on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I bet that caused a lot of confusion
Oh
about
my goodness.
what was, going into class not knowing what you're going to be doing or what's due. And they're just like, all right, get out your research paper. And you're like, what? Yeah. Let me make sure this is still on. Okay. Okay, so during your time in college, because it's a huge adjustment and everything, like, who was your support system?
Well, mainly, like I said, once I got into college, my family became a definite support system. But also my friends. And when I say, especially coming out of high school, you have different kinds of friends. And so my friends who were in college were definitely more of a support system than my friends who were outside of college, because the friends that were outside of college were like me in the sense of they had not gone to college, their family hadn't gone to college, so they had no idea the pressure I was under to perform. Versus my friends who were in college had a better understanding because they had the same pressure. And so they were supportive in a different way, to keep motivating, to keep you going.
Okay, so knowing what you do now, if there's something that you could have done differently, like during your time in college, like, like getting to know your teachers better, or like checking in with an academic advisor, or, go to more school events, like getting more involved on campus, what is something that you hope other first generation students would do that you didn't do?
First of all, everything you just said. Because when you're talking about utilizing student resources, you also talked about getting to know your teachers better and going to more school events. All of that is important. And even though I did some of it, for instance, I got to know a couple of my teachers, but they were normally the ones that reached out to me first. I also went to school events and participated in school events. But again, that was mainly due to either get involved with more socially in school events or that sort of thing. I think one of the things that I would say to other first gen students is don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
Ask them often, and because you are never the only person who wants to know the answer to that question.
Mm-hmm.
It's just normally most people sit back and either wait for the instructor, for it to fall out of the instructor conversation,
Mm-hmm.
or someone else to raise their hand first.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to ask that question. Yeah, whatever it is, believe me, there's always someone else who wants that clarification as well.
Okay.
As far as the school events and things like that, I would recommend to get involved in something that you're passionate about. I would probably hold off on first term only because of transitioning.
Mm-hmm.
I think that majority of students, whether they're first gen or not, if they're coming from high school, there is a transition period, and having students take advantage of getting to know their surroundings better, I think always helps. And then to learn what their individual balance is, I think is always a plus.
Okay. All right, so last question. If you had to give other first generation kids advice on like how to succeed, other than, I don't know, you basically answered that in the last question, but is there like anything else, like other than like don't be afraid to ask questions, and, is there like anything else like?
I would add to that, and as far as how to succeed in college, I would just talk about what your long-term goal is, and not in the sense of 10 years long-term goal, but maybe 4 or 5 year long-term goal. And I would assume that one of those long-term goals would be to actually earn your degree.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, I think you have to set yourself up for success. And the easiest way to set yourself up for success is by making sure that you have your time management, some type of time management tool, whether it's on your phone or laptop or the traditional planner,
Planners.
and combinations of that. I think it's just really important to have, because each individual is going to pursue that differently. And again, when we're first gen, we might want to try it all.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we haven't done it before, we want to find the best tool, the best strategy, the best thing that's going to fit for us. And then it's much easier to take off layers. So once we have tried these different things, even though they all may work, it's easier to decide which is going to work best
Mm-hmm.
for us. And so I think that is the best way to set ourselves up for success, is to kind of know ourselves and know what we need to do in order to get from A to B. And then whatever, set small goals, but then at the same time, we also want to make sure we're moving forward to the longer term goals.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And that
You're
concludes
welcome.
the interview.
Excellent.
So